And at this point, we will have our second set of public comments. And again, just as in the past, I want to ask you to restrict your comments to one of the three topic areas we just covered, either the federal CCDBG grants or state preschool oversight, as we discussed, or the Head Start Partnership grant. Again, we'll restrict comments to just 1 minute per person. And we do say, though, if you have additional comments you want to make, if 1 minute doesn't give you enough time, we'll be glad to accept whatever written comments you have. And if you don't have anything with you, go back, write it up, and send it to our consultants. We will look at whatever you have, but just 1 minute now orally. Begin.
Thank you. I'd like to let everybody know that
please
licensing...
introduce yourself and with the organization you represent.
Got it. My name is Julie Lowen, and I'm the president and CEO of Children's Paradise. I'm actually in San Diego County. We are QRIS Tier 5 providers. That means all of our centers have qualified at the top level. I'd like to tell you that licensing is in my facility on at least a biweekly basis. There's no such thing as every 5-year inspection. So are QPI coaches, Head Start compliance officers, federal reviewers. I've applied for CSPP. If I get that, I will have another analyst. There's one place that you can really kind of stop spending funding. At this time, licensing is not trained in child development, which means our center was cited for having a guitar in the classroom. We were cited when a 15-month-old baby bit his friend because the baby was taking his toy. We were also informed that we should hold the hand of a 5-year-old child so that he could not act impulsively. And the suggestion was made that we were not meeting the needs of a little girl with Down syndrome because we could not prevent her from spontaneously hugging her friends. We could hold the hands of children 100% of the time and never accomplish the removal of impulsivity. Everybody knows that. Before the legislature sends licensing into my center more, please, I beg of you, they drive me crazy. Not because I don't want quality, I do, but because they don't have a grasp on child development or common sense. And it really needs to change so that I'm not spending my resources fighting this ridiculousness. And it's discriminatory against children with special needs or children that are from difficult communities.
Thank you very much.
So
we gave you the 20-second San Diego bonus. So. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Senators. Anna Levine, Senior Staff Attorney at the Child Care Law Center. I have a very brief point of information that I think could be helpful, which is I happen to have the language of the federal law on 12-month eligibility in front of me. And there are so many complicated questions in front of you, and there is no complication. We are very clearly out of compliance. The language is that we are required to demonstrate that each child who receives assistance under this subchapter in the state will be considered to meet all eligibility requirements for such assistance and receive such assistance for not less than 12 months before the state or designated local entity redetermines the eligibility of the child, yada, yada, yada. So when we bring people in and we tell contractors, you have to bring someone in within 5 days if there's any change in income, any change in family composition, the family size, in a variety of factors, and those changes, if they don't come in, if the answer is wrong, they're going to lose their eligibility. Those rules are not in compliance. And so we have recommended and we support an actual 12-month period. It would look a lot like early Head Start, state preschool, our many other programs, and also help us bring down those funds and match those programs to reduce administrative costs.
If I can ask a question just out of my ignorance, so this change in rules, is this something done at the department level or is there legislation needed?
Well, we believe that there should be legislation because it can be done quickly without getting into the weeds. I think it could be done through could actually be done through the budget. And there are also some proposals on the table in legislation for 12-month eligibility, but it would have to be done. It's a federal requirement as of now, but we would need state legislation to mirror and implement it to overcome the variety of Title V regulations that pull people in.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I'd be happy to share with you a bill I introduced when I first was elected to try to do that. And maybe if it has Block's name on it, it'll get a little further.
Oh.
It's legislative action.
Okay.
We could get it done.
We'll work on that.
Yes, good.
Hi, I'm Linda Sato with the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network, and I just want to say that the network supports annual inspections of licensed child care facilities. I just want to urge that meeting this requirement should not come out of the federal child care development block grant. As you heard earlier, that the federal dollars, among other things, covers subsidized slots. And if you have to look at slots and meeting these requirements, it should not come at the expense of slots. I want to also note that in the governor's proposed budget, that there was a funding for annual inspections of facilities. It did not include childcare facilities, and it should. But again, I just want to reiterate, it should not come out of the child care and development funds.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Mary Ignatius. I'm the statewide organizer for Parent Voices. I want to echo all the comments that Anna Levine just gave around 12-month eligibility. We truly believe that this is actually a quality issue, and it's about continuity of care for children to have 12 full months without disruption. We've had so many parents come to us talk about every 3 months, every 3 months, every 3 months, they have to reproduce all of the same documentation they just produced 3 months before. It is extremely stressful. It is a huge burden on everybody involved in the system. And as we talked about the early Head Start and child care partnerships, those partnerships are being undermined because of this 12-month eligibility issue. They have it in the Head Start program, but not necessarily in the child care. So if we can streamline and make sure that we have this comprehensive system that runs smoothly for everyone involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Kate Miller with Children Now. I just want to talk about the state plan, although we really see it as an opportunity with the new CCDBG requirements and the upcoming state plan that we need to submit, an opportunity to really articulate a vision for our ECE system, a high-quality system that's really going to meet the needs of children and families. As one of the new requirements, we'll be needing to increase the set-aside that's used for quality improvement activities. We have approximately $70 million right now being used for a variety of activities. We need to really use this opportunity to look at those activities, to align it with current local efforts, to really think meaningfully, thoughtfully plan about how we're going to meet some of these new requirements and just bring up the system as a whole to tackle quality in all settings. So encourage a closer look at the state plan development process and being involved with all the agencies and really using this as an opportunity for the state.
Great, thank you. Next speaker.
Erin Gable, on behalf of First 5 California, I would echo the remarks of my colleagues previously on the need for a systems-based approach to our quality investments for professional development, continuity of care issue, and the annual inspections, and just add that the annual inspection is an opportunity to think not about how to create a checklist that's divorced from quality care that's developmentally appropriate, but rather an opportunity to think systemically about how all the systems at the local level should work together to get closer to that goal in a way that also achieves better safety in those programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi there, Molly Safoya with Early Edge California. I just want to underscore what the California Department of Education highlighted, that that California lost out on a preschool expansion grant partially because we did divest in the preschool system. We lost out on some critical federal dollars as we're considering investments in our low-income 4-year-olds. We can use every dollar we can get. So we have an opportunity this year to serve all low-income 4-year-olds. I would just encourage to consider that as an opportunity to not only serve our low-income children, but to also to continue to draw down federal funds that can help support families. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Janine Micheletti, representing California Alternative Payment Program Association. Echo and support all the comments that you previously heard, and I just want to bring the committee's attention. There is a bill, AB 233, that does have 12-month eligibility. It also strengthens language surrounding continuity of care for families, and the alternative payment programs looked at this, working with families every day. We saw the disconnect and the harm that befell the families having to comply with continually reporting information. That bill's introduced, and it is in Assembly Appropriations. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Celia Ayala from LAUP. And I want to reiterate the issue of systems and the diversity of California. And we truly believe that it has to be a partnership with local, state, and federal investment. It cannot be one system, but it does need to be systemic. It needs to build on the infrastructure that exists of a mixed delivery system, not one size fits all. Not every parent or every child needs the same thing. And that we do need to look at a continuum from birth on. It's really from 0 to 20, but if we're really looking at getting it right, we need to start at the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last speaker.
Yes. Khadija Alam Javed with the Advancement Project. I would like to echo the comments made by my colleagues at First 5 California and Early Edge California. And you're right, members, shame on us for divesting from our child care and early education programs. Forget about preschool for all. We're not even there for our low-income 4-year-olds, and that was a promise that was made in the last year's budget. I forgot my last comment, but thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Want to thank all the speakers. Is there another speaker? Are you coming forward to comment? No, okay. Okay, thank you all for your comments. I now turn the gavel back over to Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, sir. I'd just say there was lots of interest in community care licensing. It'll be heard in Budget Sub-3 at our April 30th hearing, and we can, discuss it further. California is one of the few states that doesn't have annual inspections in child care, and when you look at all of our national indicators of where we fall in terms of the quality of child care compared to other states, and the military, which ranks #1 in terms of the provision of high-quality child care, we rank low, and one of the reasons is because we don't do annual inspections. And I appreciate that when you run a program, nobody wants to be audited, nobody wants to be inspected because you run the stellar program in the world. I get that. But from government's perspective and from parents' perspective, we need to know and be able to see inside those facilities to make sure that children are safe and our public dollar investments are being used wisely. So we'll be able to discuss that more fully April 30th. This is the point in the agenda where we open it up to proposals for investment that are outside of the governor's proposed budget in January. We heard at the top of the hearing the proposal presented by the chair of the Women's Caucus, Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, and so we'll move on from that in the agenda. Next, we'll hear item 7B, quality early education funding. Aaron Gable, representing First 5 California. And I'll ask that the others come forward for issues 7C, 7D. I think there'll probably be room at the table just so we can save time. And then we'll take public comment on all of the advocate investment proposals at the end of all their presentations. Ms. Gable, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And again, it's quality early education funding. Those two E's back to back are screwing with me. Quality early education funding.
Yes, for each of the terms we use to describe the system that serves our youngest children. So my name is Aaron Gable, and on behalf of First 5 California, I want to thank the Senate and the Women's Caucus for your incredible and consistent leadership on this issue of the systems our children need to be able to thrive. We urge the legislature to rebuild access to high-quality early learning and care systems with urgency in the current budget year, and with an understanding that it will take multiple years of this singular focus and significant investments in order to build back to the system that we believe is necessary. Last year's budget was a good start, but California's early learning and care system took the most significant reductions during the Great Recession, and that does not even include the many deferred years of COLA and other cost increases and pressures in the system and lost rate adjustments. The impact of high-quality care on a child's welfare and future success is unparalleled and must guide the state's investments moving forward during this time of economic recovery. First, no one would argue that our early learning system was adequate prior to 2008, as you've heard quite a bit about, with thousands of children, hundreds of thousands of children who were eligible on our subsidized lists. And then there were two significant system changes that we also would urge you to consider in addition to the lost slots, lost infrastructure, and lost COLA. First, of course, is the CalWORKS overhaul, which means that fewer children will be served in our stages, and we should not consider that a cost savings, but rather than an urgent need to look at where else the slots need to be built. And also, of course, the promise that was contained in last year's budget for full-day, full-year preschool for all eligible 4-year-olds, which has many issues around it in addition to slots, also rates, facilities, and other investments to ensure access.
Which is going to require multiple years.
Multiple years, indeed. So the research is clear. High-quality learning environments for babies and young children are the most impactful investment the state can make in our future success for our society. As you review the actions taken in recent years to begin rebuilding this early learning system, and the debate, you will also be debating the most urgent steps you take in this budget year. You will hear 3 crucial issues over and over again that will outline the proposal I'm presenting to you. The need for increased access, increased affordability, and evidence-based quality. I will not belabor the details of our coalition's proposal. There's a lot in there, and if you have not already received a copy, I will make sure that those are delivered to your office today. Number one, of course, is to support the size and significance of the Women's Caucus's ask for the budget. We believe that even over a multiple year period, this budget year cannot be underestimated in its importance and the size that needs to be put forward for our youngest children in the system. We believe that $600 billion is a very good next step in looking at a multiple year investment. Number 2, affordability. Rates is quality. Rates are quality, excuse me. My English major problem there. The years of deferred COLA and rate increases have almost broken our early learning system. We cannot address access to quality without stabilizing the backbone of our reimbursement and rate system. This crisis is particularly acute when looking at quality access for our babies. We recommend right-sizing the infant-toddler adjustment factor and looking at increases, significant multiple-year increases for both the SRR and the RMR, in addition to whatever other policy changes you might look at for the rate system. Access. We urge significant slot increases for both our babies and our preschoolers as a continued part of a multiple-year commitment to restoration and rebuilding access system-wide. The momentum of the preschool promise must be continued, but also balanced with increased access for our infants and toddlers. And 4, quality. In a robust Proposition 98 year, as Chairman Block mentioned, we really urge a thoughtful, system-wide infrastructure investment in all our first teachers in all care settings. We recommend significant investments this budget year to create professional development systems based in part on our quality rating and improvement systems and other existing quality programs, including the professional learning infrastructure opportunities in our community colleges that they represent. Finally, we would urge that you provide an on-ramp for family home care providers and providers of infant toddler care to participate in and gain professional assistance from our quality rating and improvement systems. As you discussed earlier in your agenda, significant investment of $50 million ongoing has been made for Prop 98 supported programs. There are no current ongoing supports for those providers working with our babies, and in non-98 programs, we would urge that we move forward in that way in order to achieve the full intent of our QRAS system. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions on this proposal? We'll move on to item 7C, the San Francisco Child Care Pilot Project. Graham Dobson from the Office of Early Care and Education from the City and County of San Francisco. Thanks for being with us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and members. My name is Graham Dobson. I'm from the San Francisco Office of Early Care and Education, and I administer the local child care subsidy pilot in San Francisco. We know it locally as the pilot, or the San Francisco pilot. So in 2005, SB 701 authorized the City and County of San Francisco to develop and implement its own individualized county child care subsidy plan. And the pilot was established to explore solutions to problems that California's one-size-fits-all childcare subsidy system for contract providers presents to high-cost counties such as those in the Bay Area. It represents a response to the challenges which the subsidy system with its single statewide income eligibility criteria and standard reimbursement rate presents to children, families, and providers in San Francisco, where the cost of living is well beyond the state median. The statewide standard reimbursement rate, the SRR, covers only approximately 50% of the market rate for early education in San Francisco. So the San Francisco pilot allows some local flexibility for state-subsidized Title V ECE programs around income eligibility, reimbursement rates, and parent fees. This doesn't represent sweeping changes in state policy, but rather addresses narrowly targeted changes that make all the difference to the effectiveness of these services to meet local conditions and challenges. The pilot allows San Francisco to receive a slightly higher reimbursement rate than the SRR, and also provides a higher income exit eligibility cutoff for families before they lose care. As the San Francisco pilot does not change the total funds allocated to San Francisco County for subsidized childcare, it results in no additional costs to the state. We sort of manage this and administer this locally within the allocation that's already coming to San Francisco.
So where does the additional money come from, or is there additional?
There's no additional money. I'm not asking for any money, so that's a good thing. The San Francisco...
I'm clear you're not asking for additional state money, but does the city of San Francisco augment?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to. There's no way that our Title V contractors could exist if we didn't. On top of our slightly higher reimbursement rate, we do provide some local funding to support our Title V programs.
Got it.
The pilot supports the contractors to maximize contract earnings and increase child days of enrollment by keeping early care and education centers open, offering greater consistency for children, and providing better income stability for low-income families. In the last 3 years, the pilot served almost 1,200 children who would have otherwise lost eligibility for child care subsidies. And the amount of dollars returned by contractors to the state because they can't afford to provide, to take them, and therefore not being used to serve eligible children has decreased throughout the pilot's existence. The contractors have on average achieved a 3% increase in child days of enrollment. So the pilots also successfully retained childcare capacity. San Francisco County has lost the smallest share of Title V contractors among its neighboring counties. On a statewide level, the pilot created and demonstrated the temporary transfer of funding between over-earning and under-earning contractors within the county, which was then adopted on a statewide level by the Department of Education. So San Francisco is requesting a continuation of these current strategies to address local childcare needs and conditions, according to the same guidelines that are already in place. The pilot's currently scheduled to sunset in June 2016, but if the project ends, it will result in a return to the problems that affected state-subsidized programs prior to the pilot's creation. There's a potential for the loss of available childcare spaces, as many San Francisco providers will run the real risk of going out of business. We recognize that this is a statewide issue, and this is not unique to San Francisco, but until there's a statewide solution to the inadequate SRR, and we have this pilot in place, we're asking that the legislator consider including a repeal of the pilot sunset in the enacted 2015-16 Budget Act. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there other pilots, or is this?
San Mateo had the first pilot, San Mateo County, and we sort of piggybacked on that pilot. And it's almost exactly the same. It replicates what they have in place. And I know that there is a bill this year, AB 833 from Assemblymember Bonta, that is looking to do a similar pilot in Alameda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there are examples of municipalities. I think the city of Santa Monica, there are examples of municipalities that have floated bonds and done other creative ways to expand the provision of child care in their own communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 7D, trailer bill license exempt care rates, and it'll be presented by the Child Care Alliance of Los Angeles.
Good afternoon. We've been here quite some time. My name is Donna Snaringer, and I'm with the Child Care Alliance of Los Angeles. I'll try to be brief. You've already talked quite a bit today about rates, and we specifically wanted to raise the issue around rates for license-exempt providers. We've had some conversations referring to them as license-exempt, and I'd sort of like to reframe that to thinking of them as family, friends, and neighbors. These are the people that help people take care of their kids, and what we find in the programs we administer is they fill the gaps when licensed care can't. Evenings, weekends, rotating schedules, all the different challenges that our 24/7 workforce requires.
And even geographically, are there parts of the state where there just isn't licensed capacity?
Absolutely. In our more rural communities in inland Southern California, as well as in Northern California, there are not licensed providers, and you see a much higher use of license-exempt care. License-exempt providers, family, friends, and neighbors, also care more often for infants and toddlers. And if any of you have had an infant or toddler, as I did when I had an infant, I chose a family, friend, and neighbor provider because I wanted somebody to pick her up and hold her and talk to her and pay attention to her. And I think our families in our subsidy system deserve this same access. The license-exempt providers in California prior to the Great Recession were paid 90% of the family child care rate, and one of the budget reductions was to reduce them to 60%. This, coupled with the regional market rate being held at levels from 2009 at the 10.11% deficit factor, have put these rates at a very, very low level. In many parts of our state, providers are paid less than $2 an hour. And it is really difficult for families to identify a provider who's willing to work for that amount of money. And we believe that we are starting to see in our systems extensive turnover in these providers and families having difficulty finding access, particularly in stage 1 CalWORKs, where families are coming in, going into short-term components and needing that brief moment of care. They are not able to find somebody who can help them at that time, and then they lose out on their eligibility in an ongoing way. We have two proposals. We think there's two big issues with license-exempt rates. The first has to do with the fact that currently the California Department of Education is requiring that all part-time care for license-exempt be paid at an hourly rate. The statute currently requires that providers are paid at 60% of the family child care rate, but for the hourly rate, they're still using methodology from their older surveys that create a derived rate for part-time care. So in these cases, this is where we get down to these $2 an hour and below rates, and we really feel like at minimum the state should be paying the 60% statutory requirement. And the department feels that there would need to be guidance from all of you to be able to make that change. Secondly, we think that 60% of the family child care rate is too low, and we really need to look at increasing that amount. Obviously, these are more informal care settings. We realize that they shouldn't be paid at the same level as licensed providers, but this has just gotten to a point where it's not sustainable, and it's really causing burdens for families. Quickly, I want to give two examples in Los Angeles County. One is a family that has a school-age child who's using full-time care in the evenings, about 35 hours a week. They provide about 150 hours of care per month, and at the end of the month, we pay them $385, $2.57 per hour. The second is a part-time preschool family. They use 96 hours of care per month, which is still close to full-time, and they're paid $2.43 per hour. So we cut them a check for $234. It's really not very much money to ask for someone to care for your child. And any of us who pay for informal care, know we pay more than that. So we really appreciate your consideration, and we're happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We will move on to issue 7E, which is also the California Child Care Alliance. Prop 98 funds for technology grants for child care and development contractors.
And I will just continue, and I will try to be as brief as I can. Because of all of the funding challenges that have been faced by agencies that administer child development programs, one of the things that has been backburnered by many agencies is the necessary maintenance and upgrade of our technology systems, computers, phones, software, communication systems, all the things that are needed to effectively and efficiently administer our programs. The cost of upgrading these systems is significant. If you have to put a new phone system in your organization, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. And with the current reimbursement structure and the administrative costs that are paid to different agencies in different capacities, it's really out of the reach of many of these programs. We understand there may be some additional one-year money available in Proposition 98, and we are proposing that good one-time use of this money might be for technology grants that would allow agencies to apply for funding to upgrade their phone systems, improve their communication, be able to communicate in mobile capacity with their clients, which is what many clients have. And it's a way to make the system better in the long run with one-time investments, and we appreciate your consideration.
And that's kind of in keeping with the comment made earlier by Finance in terms of their stakeholders group pulling together to look for administrative streamlining opportunities. This
correct.
Could feed right into that. Any questions on this proposal? Okay, we'll move on to item 7F from the Northern Directors Group, and the trailer bill suggested language to increase alternative payment contract administration rates.
Thank you. My name is Danita Stromgren, and I represent the Northern Directors Group. which is a coalition of alternative payment programs, and those are child care subsidy programs from Northern California. And we support and appreciate all of the proposals that have come forward, the Women's Caucus proposal, increased in reimbursement rates, including the license exempt proposal that you just heard about, increased slots, the state median income increase. But we realize that as you reinvest in the system, that it's critically important that you also reinvest in the infrastructure of the system. You've heard again about the increase in family needs for non-traditional hour care, the increased need for infant care, and that oftentimes those types of arrangements are best met through family child care, and oftentimes those services are addressed through the alternative payment system. The alternative payment system is a powerful delivery system for subsidized child care. It provides both access to child care for working families, especially, as I mentioned, those who use care during non-traditional hours, and offers access to quality care opportunities through the variety of options for license-exempt family child care and center-based care. And again, with the limited access of care for infants and toddlers in subsidized centers, the alternative payment programs are often the most viable options available for subsidized care of the youngest children. The vast majority of CalWORKs families come through the AP door. And so consequently, the alternative payment programs are oftentimes serving the neediest of families and children, and yet they have the least amount of time or support to actually serve those families. They've been cut drastically back in 2010, and the services have deteriorated over the past 5 years. One local program has lost 25% of their seasoned staff to higher paying jobs. Those are individuals who have the passion and the skills to really meet the needs of families. Staff currently have little or no time or access to actually work with families and go beyond just reviewing the parents' work schedule and the time to truly support those families beyond the enrollment process. And we see this really as a lost opportunity. This is oftentimes a time when they can determine if there's some additional needs that the child has, or learn something and help the parent in supporting them in some of their other services. So we feel like the opportunity to observe those interactions, assess the child's development, and hear about the parent and provider concerns are lost if there isn't sufficient time to really work with those families. Additionally, many of the employees in those programs are themselves paid so low due to the cap on the infrastructure that they oftentimes are eligible for the child care subsidies. And again, in one local program, 30% of the staff in the program are eligible for the child care subsidies. 10% are Medi-Cal eligible, and there's even a percentage that are Medicare served because they're over 70.
So these are nonprofit organizations.
These are primarily
employing folks in
nonprofit.
the communities.
Right. So they have limited resources, and the cost of doing business, we know, has risen. Healthcare costs have gone up, rents and utilities have all gone up. So while the economy is improving, many of the good long-term employees have no choice but to go to higher paying jobs to get a livable wage. And so what we're saying is, while this isn't a particularly exciting way to direct new funds, you wouldn't build a house without building the foundation. And you need to really have the infrastructure and the foundation to build up the services so you're best meeting the needs of families. And we support this as a quality measure, and we look forward to working with you as we go through the budget process.
Thank you. Senator Stone?
Do we know what the present administrative cost is annually at this time?
Currently, what gets really confusing about it is it's not just the administrative costs. It's a combination of the cost of all the overhead as well as all of the direct services and case management. So currently it is at 17.5%. Used to be at one point in time 25. It went down to 20. Then it went to 19.5, and then down to 17.5.
So at 17.5%, what is the annual expenditure?
It varies depending on the program.
Do we
Overall statewide?
Statewide.
I actually don't know what the overall statewide cost is.
So we have no idea what the
I could get that information, I just don't happen
I
to
would
have
just
it
be
with
curious to know what the 2% increase would be in dollars and how many slots that would
Yeah, the
compromise.
LAO, I think, for a 2% increase has figured something around, I believe, around a $29 million cost.
Which could be a significant number of slots, too.
It is, and we know that's the challenging part of it, but what we say is that we're really losing a lot in terms of the ability to serve these families well.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions on issue 7F?